What's up, everybody? Azario here, and welcome to the first of many uh, Yu-Gi-Oh 101 Archetype reviews that I plan on doing. Um, I'm finally starting to do Archetype reviews again. I kind of fell back from it for quite some time, and I know people have been missing it. They miss my insight on the archetypes, my experience in playing with the archetypes, and giving tips and things like that. So yeah, man, I'm getting back in my habit. So I haven't done one of these in a while, so I don't remember any intros that I used to do. So I'm gonna just um, start off by saying this. When it comes to doing archetype reviews, I don't do every archetype in the game. I only do archetypes that have interested me, and archetypes that I can actually see there can be a good video on. There are some archetypes out there that are just confusing, some archetypes out there that are just fun, and they may not have any good information out there in regards to um, what to use with them, because the archetype themselves may not have much, or it could be the case where the archetype may have too many suggestions, and based on my experience in using the archetype, I could just dwindle it down to these few cards that I feel, just based on experience again, that I feel work best with the archetype in order for you to get the best results that you can get out of them. And I'm getting back in my habit of playing with archetypes again in Yu-Gi-Oh and researching cards and things like that. And one of the first few archetypes that I've played with was the Ultra Athletes. That's what UA stand for. I always thought it was Ultimate Athlete, but it's Ultra Athlete. Um, so with that being said, if I don't do anything the way that people may remember it, please forgive me. I am starting up again, so without further ado, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down the list of all of the monsters and non-monster support cards for the archetype, and then I'm gonna go back and I'm going to give my suggestions as to how it seems it's meant to be played, and give some card suggestions that I feel can help out with the archetype. So, mind you, all of this is based on my experience with playing them. You guys may have different experiences, so you may have a different idea as to how to use the archetype. So just take this as a video explaining um, a way to use it, instead of the way to use it. It's just one way to use it, because you guys may figure out different strategies and things like that when you decide you want to pick it up and give it a try. So just to give a quick history lesson on the archetype, as I like to do, um, the UA Ultra Athletes is one of two uh, TCG exclusive archetypes, because the TCG doesn't have a list of exclusive archetypes, really. They don't have like a long list of names. I think they only have like what, a list of TCG archetypes. I believe like the Noble Knights are like TCG exclusives, if I'm not mistaken, or if it's just like a certain number of cards that are TCG exclusives with the archetype. So yeah, so don't quote me on that one, but I think the Noble Knights are a TCG exclusive archetype. I may not be right on that, but I think I'm pretty accurate. Either the Noble Knights are a TCG exclusive archetype, or they just have a lot of cards that are TCG exclusive in the archetype. But nevertheless, like the Noble Knights, I think I'm gonna throw that out there. Don't quote me on that. The Burning Abyss and the Ultra Athletes, like it's not that long of a list of TCG exclusive archetypes in the game. Um, as of right now, they're just a series of monsters that are all Earth Warrior type monsters, and they resemble, as you see right here, cybernetic baseball players or soccer players. Really, in my opinion, where I feel they got the idea for the Ultra Athletes, it was a game back in 1993. I think it came to the United States in March. I think it was released in Japan in like 1991 in September, in the month of September. I don't know the exact date, but it came to the United States in March of 1993 on a system called the Neo Geo. All y'all new kids who started playing video games around like the PlayStation 2 and And beyond that, you don't know about the Neo Geo. It is a gem. And what I mean by a gem is it is one of those hidden systems that if you ever get a chance to play it, there's so many good games on the Neo Geo. Even though the initial lifespan of the Neo Geo wasn't really long, it has a list of great games that people still talk about to this day as some of the best games ever made. Like, it was literally like a really, really good system with a lot of great games on it. I mean, from fighting games, like, for example, there's games called Fatal Fury, uh, the 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 King of Fighters. You guys may remember that game. That started on the Neo Geo. Uh, Garuru, the Mark of the Wolves. Um, Let me see what else. Uh, Samurai Showdown. That series of games. Like, all this came from the era of Neo Geo. All those were SNK owned games, and they were on the Neo Geo system. And there was one game on there, which again I believe they got the idea to make the Ultra Athletes. It was a game called it was kind of, getting tongue tied. It was a game called 2020 Super Baseball, and it was literally like cybernetic humans, pretty much with their own baseball league, like really like the distant future. So that's why I think they got the idea. For a lot of people that remember that game, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. So yeah, uh, like I think they got the idea from 2020 Super Baseball when they thought about the Ultra Athletes, because that's what I think of instantly when I see them. But yeah, they're warrior earth type. They're earth warrior type monsters that resemble cybernetic baseball and soccer players. And their whole strategy is based around that, with the exception of one. All of them are level 5 or higher monsters. I think the highest level I've seen was like level 6 or level 7. Um, I haven't played the archetype in a while, so forgive me if I'm not precise on what the levels are. But with the exception of one, that being midfielder, all of the UAs are level 5 or higher. And the whole playstyle revolves around them pretty much just changing out monsters, where when you have a UA monster on the field, they have abilities that can activate in the hand or from their field spell or their other support cards, excuse me, that allows them to that allows you to bounce a UA monster from the field back to your hand, and you can special summon them and have their effects work for them and things like that. And if you have their field spell on the field, which we're going to get into a little later, UA Stadium, you can give them a permanent attack boost of 500. And they all have effects that come in handy. Different ones. I mean, just like baseball teams and soccer teams, they have different positions, and each player who plays that position, they're good at that position. And that's what I feel like with the Ultra Athletes. They have monsters that represent a certain position in their respected games, and they do a good job at that. So as long as you play them, I feel the way that they feel like they're meant to be played. They have a couple strategies that they can work with. And without further ado, man, let's just dive into the monsters. So again, I'm only going to talk about the monsters in the archetype, the non-monster spells and traps, things like that. So let's just start off with UA Goalkeeper. Get this. And UA Goalkeeper, it's a level 6. It's an Earth Warrior effect monster. UA Goalkeeper, attack 1000, defense 2800. Description: you can special summon this card from your hand by returning one UA monster you control to the hand, except UA Goalkeeper. You can only special summon UA Goalkeeper once per turn this way. Once per turn during your opponent's turn, you can target one UA monster you control. Once during this turn, it cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. And this is a quick effect, so UA Goalkeeper, just like a goalkeeper in soccer, it prevents them from it prevents the opposing team from scoring a point. That's the whole goal of a goalkeeper, to prevent the ball from going in the net. And that's kind of what goalkeeper does. You know, your opponent scores a point by when they destroy your monsters, and I guess that's the whole idea behind him. He pretty much protects your monsters or itself. And next up we have UA Midfielder, going into baseball, and we got UA Midfielder. As of right now, Midfielder is the only level 4 Ultra Athlete. So it's an Earth Warrior effect monster. Again, attack 1200, defense 1000. Description: you can special summon this card from your hand by returning one UA monster you control to the hand, except UA Midfielder. You can only special summon UA Midfielder once per turn this way. During either player's turn, you can target one other UA monster you control, return that face-up monster to their hand, then special summon one UA monster from your hand with a different name from that monster. You can only use this effect of UA Midfielder once per turn. So, just like midfielders in baseball, it's kind of like a placeholder. Like, it doesn't really do too much. Like, it can go either way, like it's just right there in the middle. Next up we have UA Mighty Slugger. Again, another baseball reference. Somebody that's like a strong batter. So it's a Earth Warrior effect monster, level 5, attack 2300, defense 700. Description: you can special summon this card from your hand by returning one UA monster you control to the hand, except UA Mighty Slugger. You can only special summon UA Mighty Slugger once per turn this way. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. So we kind of have like an Ancient Gear effect going on, where it can attack without worry. So obviously that would be your main attacker. And last but not least, as far as the monsters go, we have UA Perfect Ace, and it is a Earth Warrior effect monster, level 5, attack 1500, defense 2500. Description: you can special summon this card from your hand by returning one UA monster you control to the hand, except UA Perfect Ace. You can only special summon UA Perfect Ace once per turn this way. Once per turn during your opponent's turn, when a card is or effect is activated, you can discard one card, negate that activation, and if you do, destroy it. This is a quick effect. So this one is going to be the one that takes care of the problem cards from your opponent. Another baseball reference, in reference to the pitcher. They often refer to the pitcher as the ace sometimes, and this guy, he just pitches it and negates your opponent's monster's effects from activating. So, and the fact that it's quick means that it really comes in handy, and its defense is strong. So now we're getting into the other non-monster support cards. And there's only 2 of these. So first off, we have UA Power Jersey, and it's an equip spell card. Description: equip only to a UA monster. It gains 1000 attack and defense. Also, if it battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage it inflicts to your opponent is doubled. If the equipped monster destroys a monster by its attack, it can make a second attack during this battle phase. During your standby phase, banish the equipped monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster returned to the hand, you can return this card to the hand. So, pretty much with UA powered Jersey, you don't want your monsters to get banished. You want to use the abilities of the monster and always have another UA ready to switch out with it. You know, that way you can reuse powered Jersey and in future turns. Like, you never want your monsters to be banished, pretty much. So that's the ideal. That's the idea behind powered Jersey. And last but not least, we have UA Stadium, and it's a field spell card, and it says if a UA monster is normal summoned to your side of the field, you can add one UA monster from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, if a UA monster is special summoned to your side of the field, all monsters you currently control gain 500 attack. So this field spell card not only acts as a searcher, but it acts as an attack booster as well. So just by just by going by the motif, you can increase their attack by 500 permanently, which is only going to help like one of them. And in the grand scheme of things, it's only going to help one of them, and that's Mighty Slugger, since that's the one with the highest attack. So that should be your focus right there as far as that ability goes. But if you feel like you can pull something off when one of the other ones gaining an attack boost, you know, wasting it. Truth be told, unless you're planning on using other cards, which of course I'm going to get into in a minute, as far as cards that will work good with them, then that effect is wasted on any other monster in the archetype besides Mighty Slugger. So now we're going to get into the way I feel the monsters should be used. Now let me open up the tab on all the monsters in the archetype for a second. Hold on, this may be kind of tedious. Midfielder, Mighty Slugger, and Perfect Ace. Now when you look at goalkeeper, midfielder, Mighty Slugger, and Perfect Ace, off the jump, you know midfielder is going to be your go-to card. One, because it's level 4, so you can just normal summon it from your hand without having to worry about tributes, as you have to do with Mighty Slugger, Perfect Ace, or UA goalkeeper, because they're going to take at least one tribute. So midfielder would be your go-to. Now, of course, it's level 4. It's a warrior, so you can search it out with reinforcement of the army, as well as a couple other cards such as Warrior Lady of the Wasteland and Giant Rat, which can also get out UA Goalkeeper and UA Perfect Ace. So those are two monsters that you because at max 3, 6, 9, 12, it's only 12 monsters that you can put in, or 12 cards, of 12 monster cards you can put in if you're just using an Ultra Athlete archetype. So you're going to need something that can benefit the UAs and that can get you in a position to change your monsters out whenever you get another UA in your hand and use their effect. So looking at that, you would want to keep, you know, either Giant Rat or Warrior Lady of the Wasteland, or even both of them. But depending on if you're going for like an all warrior type build, then just use Warrior Lady of the Wasteland, or if you're going for like just the Earth attribute build, then use Giant Rat and Warrior Lady of the Wasteland. That way you'll have more chances to getting a monster on the field that can search them out and special summon them from the deck. So that's something right there. And another thing about midfielder acts as a catalyst for the other for the other Ultra Athletes, because not only do the Ultra Athletes already have the ability to bounce a UA monster from your side of the field to your hand, and they can special summon themselves. UA midfielder has an effect that allows you to target another UA monster you control, and you can return that to the hand and then special summon another one. So it kind of puts you in a position to where you don't necessarily have to use the abilities of the UA monsters that's in your hand. You could just use midfielder. Now I haven't really been in a position to where that was really helpful. I think I only used it once when I was using midfielder, and the one time I did use it, it was helpful, but you just got to be careful because that's not one of those abilities that you just want to just spam just cause. You know, you just got to really make sure that you use that ability carefully because it can be helpful under the right circumstances. Because let's say, for example, that you wasn't able to use, or that you wasn't able to use the abilities of your monsters in your hand anymore for whatever reason. You know, UA midfielder can come in handy for that. Now, goalkeeper, this is going to be your protection right here because it can stop any destruction from one UA monster, either be it battle or card effect. You can protect your UA monster, one of your UA monsters. So getting 3 of these guys on the field, well, actually that's not going to help you because you can only use the effect of UA goalkeeper once per turn. Well, no, I take that back. Yeah, because if you get 3 of these on the field, then you will be able to protect all 3 of them. You can only special summon one UA goalkeeper in that way. I was completely, I was pretty much just reading that wrong. But each UA goalkeeper would only be able to use it once per turn. So getting 3 of these guys on the field, you pretty much developed an iron wall to not have to worry about your UAs to get destroyed by battle or by card effects. So UA's goalkeeper is going to be a defense. Now, Mighty Slugger, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be your primary attacker. You know, or at least, you know what I'm saying, like that's the oh, excuse me, I dropped something. But yeah, like that's the strategy that they put in place. Because using UA Field Stadium, the field spell card, it can boost the attack of Mighty Slugger up to 2800, which can be, you know, very devastating for your opponent. For a monster to have 2800 attack and them not being able to activate a spell or trap while it's attacking, you know, that's pretty harsh, especially if that's going to be a direct attack to their life points. You know, they won't be able to activate anything. They can't activate no cards or effects from the hand, or, you know, activate any spells or traps. You know, like they just got to sit there and they got to take that damage. So Mighty Slugger really does come in handy when it comes to that. He is your primary attacker. And when it comes to Perfect Ace, this is like your secret tool, or at least that's the way I look at him. He's like that secret tool that they don't see coming unless it's already on the field. So UA Perfect Ace comes in handy to really put a halt to those nuisances that come in handy. You know, often, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh, you go up against people that have monsters that, well, damn near every monster in the game these days has an effect that people, they make these builds and they take like 15 turns or like 15 moves to get their turn out or to get their strategy off, and it's just back to back. But it's always that one weak point that if they can't get this monster effect off, then it ruins the whole their whole strategy. And UA Perfect Ace, I went up against a couple of builds like that, and you know, using UA Perfect Ace, you know, it does come in handy. So when it comes to that effect, your opponent is going to try to, or at least anybody smart, they're going to try to put you in a position to where you feel like you have to use UA Perfect Ace, but since you're only able to use that once per turn, and on top of that, you got to discard one card in order to get that monster effect, that in order to get that monster's effect negated, because of that cost, you just got to be careful when you use UA Perfect Ace's effect, because you can really put yourself in a position to where you wish you had it had you not used it at that moment. So that's the way it is. So the whole strategy that they have in place is to get midfielder on the field and then activate either Mighty Slugger or Goalkeeper. Goalkeeper, I would rather go with this because it could protect you for like one turn, and you could put yourself in a position to at least have a monster on the field. Now, mind you, it does have 2,800 defense, so that alone is hard enough to get. That alone is pretty difficult for your opponent to get through, and then you add on the fact that it can protect itself for one attack or for one turn, or that it can prevent its destruction via your opponent's monster by battle or by card effect, for one turn at a time. That would pretty much be good if you're going for a more defensive strategy early on, which I think works for the Ultra Athletes. And Mighty Slugger, again, that's going to be your primary attacker, and Perfect Ace is going to be like your secret weapon. So you just got to make sure to keep that in mind. Now, UA Mighty Slugger and Perfect Ace, both of these are level 5, so those can go towards Exceed Summons. If you have, I can't think of the name of that damn card, Star Bright or Star Eater, I think that's the name of that field spell card. And it's a field spell card that can allow you either to add a level to your monster on the field or decrease the level of the monster on your field or in your hand. And if you plan on going for like an Exceed Summon, I guess midfielder, could use that card. I never felt the need for it because I felt the strategy that my deck uses, it doesn't need cards. It pretty much doesn't need any level modifiers. You just got to learn how to utilize the UA's abilities pretty good. Now, again, when it comes to Powered Jersey and Stadium, let me talk about these two, and then we're going to go into cards that I feel are some good suggestions, because they make some pretty stupid ones, in my opinion, on this website, as they have in the past when it came to anything else. UA Powered Jersey, as I was speaking on it earlier, it does raise the attack and defense of your UA monster by 1,000, and it doubles the battle damage that it inflicts, and it also grants you a second attack if it destroys the monster that it's battling. But during your following standby phase, you have to banish your monster. Now, of course, you can use cards like Burial for a different dimension in order to get your monster back. There's no card that directly supports Earth monsters or like warrior type monsters to get special summon from the banish zone. So you would have to use cards like different dimension reincarnation in order to special summon them from the banish zone, if that's what you're going for. But that would pretty much be your only option if you do that. But from the way I'm seeing, the card is meant to be used. Don't let your monster get banished. The whole idea is for you to get that quick attack boost, gain the benefits of the equip spell, then allow yourself to, and then change the monsters out using their effects and get Power Jersey back in your hand for some future use. Don't let your monsters get banished. Now, Midfielder is a good card to use. Well, this card is really good to use when you have Midfielder on the field and you have this card equipped to another UA monster on the field, since Midfielder can quickly switch the monsters out. You don't have to worry about your monster getting banished before your next standby phase comes. So that's something good. So let's say you have Midfielder in the graveyard, right? And you had this equipped spell card attached to another Ultra Athlete. And you had, let's say, a card like Call of the Haunted set. Then during your opponent's end phase or during their main phase 2 or whenever, activate Call of the Haunted, get Midfielder from the graveyard, and before your standby phase comes, activate its effect and switch your monsters out. That way your monster won't have to worry about getting banished. So that's the idea behind Power Jersey. That's good. Now, UA Stadium, it can be searched out via Terraforming, Planetary Pathfinder, if anybody ever even thinks about using that in the UAs, which I really don't recommend. I think you should just stick to spell search cards, if anything. So cards like Terraforming, Demise of the Land, or the Land's Demise. I can't remember the name of that damn card, because Demise of the Land was something that you're supposed to use with Cursed Dragon or something like that to destroy field spells. But it was another card similar to that had like a similar name to it. It was a quick play spell card, and it searched out field spells. Pop-up is another card that can search out field spell cards, as well as a few other ones that I can't think of. Now, this card, it's something good to gain the benefits from, as is with most field spell cards. Let's be honest, some field spell cards in this game are just utterly useless. And with this, hold on one second. With some field spell cards, they're just utterly useless. And with UA Stadium, it's one of those cards that it can help you search out the UAs that you feel like you may need at that moment. Now, granted that the UAs do have to be normal summoned to your side of the field in order for you to gain that search, but it is still something that you would want to get. You'll be able to normal summon Midfielder with no problem. But when it comes to Goalkeeper, Perfect Ace, and Mighty Slugger, you're going to need some fodder. So cards like Giant Rat and Warrior Lady of the Wasteland can put you in a position to where you can normal summon your UAs and what have you without any trouble. Primarily, when using Giant Rat and Warrior Lady of the Wasteland, your primary target should be Goalkeeper, but I'm gonna get into that like a little bit later. But the field spell card is good to pretty much keep a Mighty Slugger or a Goalkeeper or a Perfect Ace in your hand, whichever you feel like you're going to need the most of during that duel. You actually have control over searching out what you need. So that's a good benefit. And again, just using their effects or their effective Midfielder to special summon a UA monster, or even if you use cards like Call of the Haunted, it's good to keep a card like this on the field active, because it gains that 500 attack boost. Now, in actuality, from my experience, the only one that's really worked for was Mighty Slugger. And that's just facts. I feel like it's wasted when you use it on Goalkeeper, unless you're just trying to reduce the damage from it being summoned by a Warrior Lady of the Wasteland or Giant Rat. like trying to reduce that damage because it will be in attack mode. Um, unless you have a card like no entry or something set that can switch your opponent's monsters to defense mode when they try to attack, or something to switch your monster to defense mode, it just lends itself to reducing the amount of damage that you take from that battle. Now with Goalkeeper, of course, you get to keep your monster, so that's another reason why I mentioned Giant Rat and Warrior Lady of the Wastelands effect going towards Goalkeeper, because at least that way you'll be able to, when it gets special summon, it gains that 500 attack. It benefits from it, and like its attack shoots up to 1500, and that's 1500 less damage that you have to worry about taking. Plus, Goalkeeper can keep itself on the field, so it's a pretty decent field spell. It's not one of the best field spells that I've seen, but utilized properly, it can become a big problem as long as you use it for the right monsters. Now, as far as the cards that I feel work best with this, Spell Striker doesn't really strike me as a card to use. I can see why they mention it. Spell Striker can special summon itself from the hand by banishing a spell card, I believe. Let me take a look at this. Not to mention that it's in a it makes for good tribute fodder. That's the only reason why I feel like they made that suggestion. Yeah, but by banishing one spell card from your graveyard, you can special summon it so that can go towards some tribute fodder when it goes towards Goalkeeper, Mighty Slugger, or Ace. Like the same thing with Earth Armor Ninja. It can special summon itself from the hand if your opponent controls a monster and you don't, and that could be again some fodder for Ace, Slugger, or Goalkeeper. With Turret Warrior, let me see Turret Warrior. I don't really see any, or I can't remember what Turret Warrior did, because I haven't remembered this damn monster in a while. You can special summon this card from your hand. You can special summon this card from your hand. Hold on. Not bad for the yawning. You can special summon this card from your hand by attributing one warrior type monster. And if you do, it gains attack equal to the attributed monster's original attack. This would only be good for like to get that extra attack boost from Mighty Slugger. I don't really see anybody using this on Goalkeeper. Don't really see anybody using this with Perfect Ace. I mean, it's 1500. Its attack will go to, this monster's attack will go to like 2700, and it's level 5, so that can contribute to the Exceed summons using Ace and Slugger. Right there, you have more level 5 monsters in there, and that come in handy. Valkyrian Knight, now this is a monster that I use. I used Valkyrian Knight for a couple of builds, because it can special summon level 5 or higher warrior type monsters. And not to mention it's a warrior itself, and it's level 4, so it can be searched out via reinforcement of the army. And since you're going to have that in there anyway, because you're trying to get midfielder out, then it wouldn't be too bad of an idea to have Valkyrian Knight in there. But as the effect of Valkyrian Knight reads, your opponent cannot target face-up warrior type monsters for attacks except Valkyrian Knight. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can banish one warrior type monster and this card from the graveyard. Target one level 5 or higher warrior type monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. So good for getting another, or good for getting like a Mighty Slugger that's in the graveyard. And that's going to lend towards its attack boost if you have the field spell active. It can lend towards that. Not to mention you'll be protecting your life points, because if you put this face down and it gets destroyed, of course you'll be able to activate the effect like that. And your monster will be banished, but you'll be able to get that with different dimension reincarnation You know, like I was mentioning earlier. Now, Giant Rat and War. Now, well, first off, TG Striker. Never really thought about using a tuner in the UAs, but if you're going to, you know, it's a warrior. Again, search it out with reinforcement on an army. This would be the one to go with, and I think it's unlimited now since this new, or pretty much like since this past format in what, October, I believe. Yeah, I believe that TG Striker is unlimited now. So this would pretty much not only can it go towards some tribute fodder because it can special summon itself from the hand, the exact same methods that you would use with Earth Armor Ninja. It works the same way, except it's a tuner and it can go towards some synchro summoning, and that's always helpful. So you can get out, let's see, Goalkeeper is level 6, 6, 7, 8. You can get out a level 8 or a level 7 synchro summon, or if you use midfielder, you can get a level 6 out. You know, so TD Striker is very versatile, so that's actually a pretty good suggestion. It can go towards tribute fodder, or it can go towards being a tuner or that can go towards a synchro summon. So I never really thought of any synchro monsters to use with it. So just looking at the list, any of the notorious synchro monsters, I do agree with that because they do have some pretty good effects. Pretty simple. YuGiOh Guardian, can't go wrong with can't go wrong with YuGiOh Guardian. Power Tool Dragon. Can't really say Power Tool Dragon is all that. That's all dependent on the equipped spell cards that you have. But looking at most of them are going to be geared towards using either warrior. Most of the equipped spell cards are going to be for either your warrior type monsters or either for your ultra athletes. Yazi, Evil of the Yang Zing. Let's take a look at the summoning conditions for this because I haven't used the Yang Zings in a while. Yeah, just one tuner, one or more non-tuner monsters. I would say that would be a good suggestion. It's level 7, so, you know, since the majority of the monsters in the archetype is level 5, there you go. Here's a list of some of the level 5 rank 5 monsters, exceed monsters that you can use. So pause the video, of course, and take a look at that. So next up we have the spells. Feast of the Wild, level 5. I would say that if you're using Earth Armor Ninja and Turret Warrior, then that would be a good suggestion to use, because that way you'll be able to special summon 2 level 5 monsters from your hand without having to worry about, you know, doing any tributes or anything like that in order to get them on the field. And plus that can go towards exceed summons. You know, you guys take your pick of the exceed monsters for that. Creature swap, never really thought of that being any good suggestion for that. I feel like you will be able to handle your own, and I think a card like Creature Swap would just cause clutter. Maybe have it in like the side if you feel like you're going to go up against something that you would want to switch your monsters for with your opponent. But other than that, nah, I don't really see Creature Swap being all that great of a suggestion. Field Barrier, same thing with Creature Swap. Don't really see it being all that good, especially since the new rulings came in and, you know, field spell cards don't get destroyed. You know, your opponent and yourself can have 2 different field spell cards on the field simultaneously now, and there's really no need for that. I mean, yeah, they can MST it, but at the same time, the field spell card isn't that much of something that you feel like, oh my god, I need to keep this on the field. Like, you can do without it. You can do without the field spell card. So if they waste the MST on your field spell, I mean, hey, whatever. Plus you get the 500 attack boost when you special summon a UA monster anyway. So them destroying it really wouldn't do anything after your monster gets special summoned. So whatever. Hidden Armory. I've been good without that Magnum Shield. A perfect suggestion since the UAs like Perfect Ace and Goalkeeper, they have high defense, especially if you're using Giant Rat or Warrior Lady of the Wasteland. Their defense can go towards adding to their attack with Magnum Shield. For those who never looked this card up, very good for warrior type monsters that have high defense and that you're trying to be that you're trying to use as beat sticks. It says right here, equipped to a warrior type monster, depending on the battle position, apply the effect. If it's in attack position, it gains attack equal to its original defense. If it's in defense position, it gains defense equal to its attack. So that's really good, especially for Goalkeeper and Perfect Ace. That's really good for those two. Terraforming, of course, that's good for searching out the field spell card. Reinforcement of the army, good for midfielder if you're using Striker or Valkyria Knight, Warrior Lady of the Wasteland. Red Sparrow Summoner, I'm not even going to mention that. That's like a dumb suggestion to me, so I'm not going to even mention it. But, Reinforcement of the army just is a really good suggestion anytime you're using level 4 or lower warrior type monsters, especially with an archetype like this. The Monarch Storm 4th, really good for taking or using your opponent's monsters as tribute fodder. Really good. If you use Escalation of the Monarchs, I think you'll be able to tribute a monster during your opponent's main phase or the battle phase. So that might be a good idea to use this in combination with that. Funny because they don't make it like a card suggestion, because it is quick play. It don't make any sense to use a quick play spell card only during your turn. So if you could take advantage of that during your opponent's turn, then why not? So Escalation of the Monarchs might be a good idea to use with this. That way you can take your opponent's monsters during their turn and not just yours. But it's the same thing with either this, any card like Soul Exchange, any of those cards. This Soul Exchange, anything that contribute, anything that can put you in a position to where you contribute your opponent's monsters, which is good for if your opponent using cards like BLs or any monster that can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects, you'll still be able to get them off the field, and they can go towards benefiting your monsters. So that they're good for that. The traps, Battle Howling and Battle Guard Howling and Rage, really good suggestions. I think the trap suggestions are just so. This is really good because, again, if you're using Warrior Lady of the Wasteland or Giant Rat, Goalkeeper, I've said that should be your primary target because it can protect itself and it can stay on the field for a turn longer. But this is good to protect any of your warrior type monsters, because when they get targeted for an attack or by an opponent's card effect, you can pretty much bounce that monster off of the field and inflict damage. You can inflict burn damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of that monster that was bounced back. So that's really good, regardless if it was by battle or by if the warrior type monster was targeted by battle or by card effect. So that's really good. In Rage, it adds that extra 1,000 attack boost to your warrior type monsters. And the monsters that get destroyed by the monster that's equipped with Battle Guard Rage. I don't really use Battle Guard Rage, but it's good to bounce those monsters back to the field, or rather than putting them in a graveyard sometimes. So this is probably something that I would side, because Howling comes in more in handy, and with Magnum Shield you wouldn't really need Rage anyway. Call It a Haunted is good. It's a good suggestion because, in the event, like I kind of spoke on earlier, if you have powered jersey on like Goalkeeper, Mighty Slugger, or Ace, and you have midfielder in the graveyard, before your opponent's turn is over, you can activate Calling the Haunted, get midfielder back on the field, and before your standby phase comes, when under normal circumstances, Power Jersey would make you banish your Ultra Athlete, you can use midfielder's effect, and you can switch your monsters out before that effect resolves. You know, like before that effect activates. So again, right here it says during either player's turn, you'll be able to use that effect. So it's quick. So you'll be able to use it under those circumstances. So that's a good suggestion. So that's pretty much everything I have to say when it comes to the Ultra Athletes. They're a very small archetype. They don't have much at the moment, but what they do have is enough, and what other cards they have enough to support themselves to get the job done. You know, they're one of those archetypes that I feel in the future, if they get any more support, then they're going to get used more. But right now, I feel like they have just enough to make them something special. And to have a motif where you're bouncing cards from your side of the field that's in the same archetype back to your hand, a special summon one of them, I think that's a pretty unique motif. If they can find a way to really take advantage of that by giving them like another field spell card or something that can really benefit from that, I think that can really put them in a position where they'll be used more. But as of right now, I think they're just an okay archetype that is really fun to use. And if this video has done anything, I hope it's convinced you to give the Ultra Athletes a try. So that's it, everybody. That's my archetype review for the UAs, the Ultra Athletes. I enjoy using them, and you know, again, they don't have much, but they have just enough. And you know, I'm speaking on this video again from my experience from using them. Again, some of the suggestions I just felt were useless. I spoke on those. Some of those are really good suggestions. I spoke on those as well. And again, just like I said at the beginning of the video, I hope you just take this as one way to use the Ultra Athletes and not as the blueprint as how to use them. It's just one way, just based on my experience, and that's all I can really say. So thank you guys for watching this archetype review. Peace, and I'll see you guys for another one in the future.